The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the ADEA ADSAS webinar, Interview Tips from 7 More Dental Schools. The American Dental Education Association is pleased to offer this live webinar for applicants, featuring the University of Pittsburgh School of Dental Medicine, Tufts University School of Dental Medicine, the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio School of Dentistry, Dalhousie University Faculty of Dentistry, Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry of USC, Dental College of Georgia at Augusta University, and the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Dentistry. Today's webinar is exclusively for applicants who have submitted at least one application to ADEA ADSAS. The webinar is being recorded. The webinar will not include a question and answer session due to limited time. Our first presenter today is from the University of Pittsburgh School of Dental Medicine.
Hello, my name is Dr. Christine Wankiri-Hale. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Affairs here in Pittsburgh.
And I'm Molly Kunzen. I'm the admissions manager here at the School of Dental Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh. And we're so excited to have you join us today to hear a little bit more about our interview process. So just to get us started, I'll tell you a little bit about how our process works. We review our applications in full before any applicants are invited to interview. So we send out interviews on a rolling basis throughout the fall. We have small interview days, typically about 25 applicants per interview day, and we interview once a week throughout the entire fall and into the new year as well. And our goal is really to get you to know you as a person and determine if you would be a good fit for our school, as well as give you the opportunity to better get to know our program, as well as meeting faculty, students, and staff.
So one of the things that we think is unique about our program is because you get to meet all of our faculty and staff, we make sure that our interview format incorporates 3 different faculty members. So you'll be able to meet with all the faculty members, 3 of them, in one room, and you'll rotate around the room if you're an interviewer at Pittsburgh.
So the way it works, they're pretty short interviews. You would have one 15-minute interview with a faculty member, then you'd rotate to the next faculty and have another short 15-minute interview, and then you'd have a 30-minute interview over lunch with a third faculty member. So they are quick, but hopefully that gives you the opportunity to meet with multiple people.
So we thought maybe we'd give you some tips to help you prepare if you're coming for an interview in Pittsburgh. So the big things that we talk about are practice, research our institution, and relax. So related to practice, we feel like because our interview format is somewhat more relaxed, it's helpful to practice with maybe your friends, answering basic questions about yourself, simple things like tell me why you're interested in the program at Pittsburgh, and being able to talk about these things in a rather relaxed atmosphere. Also to do your research and homework at the school, about the school online. So if you come to our interview, please make sure that you would review the website just like you would for any other school. And it's really meant to be not intimidating, to be able to relax. We really want to get to know who you are as a person rather than an interrogation. So some things that maybe makes applicants stand out to our committee are, of course, positive and negative, and we'll focus on the positive. Obviously, communicating well with our interviewers is really helpful. Thinking about, what questions you might have, and feeling comfortable maybe when you're answering questions from our interviewers is helpful. We really want to make sure that you are fully engaged in the interview process here in Pittsburgh.
So I'll give you a little bit of an overview of our application timeline as well. Our application deadline isn't until November 1st, so you do still have time to submit applications to us. And since we are reviewing applications on a rolling basis, we encourage you to apply if you haven't done so already. As I mentioned, our interviews will take place every Monday from September through January, so they will continue. And again, they're small interview groups, about 25 applicants. Just like every other school, our acceptances will begin on December 1st, and we will accept students on a rolling basis until our class of 80 is full. We do offer scholarships for students that apply, and those are offered at the time of acceptance, and they are offered likewise on a rolling basis until as long as funding is still available. And another opportunity that we do have for applicants, if you're accepted to our program, we do have a second look day in January where all admitted applicants are invited to come back and look at the school.
And our applicants really enjoy coming to that because it gives them another chance, if they're nervous the first time of the interview, to get to know about the city and the school a little bit more intimately.
And I think another important point just to remember for us here at Pitt Dental is that this is just as much an opportunity for you to get to know us as for us to get to know you. So we encourage applicants to come, having done their research, be ready to ask questions and fully engage in our day.
So if you have questions, we really do have what we tell the students an open door policy. So feel free to email us. We have, our admissions team is comprised of a lot of people, but the ones that you see on the screen, myself, Molly, and we have Catherine as well. We're really happy to answer questions at the time when you're applying to us. For those of you who've applied to Pittsburgh, or even if you haven't, we really want to get to know you even before you would come to Pittsburgh. Our students really mentioned that that's one of the things that they do enjoy about Pittsburgh is the ability to communicate with us and for us to really help you through your process, whether it's at Pittsburgh or not.
So don't be afraid to reach out to us, and we hope to see you on campus in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is from Tufts University School of Dental Medicine. There's no audio if you have started your presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry, Emily. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's great.
I'm so sorry about that. I will just back up a moment. So sorry about that, everybody. My name is Jillian Anzavino. I'm the Associate Director of Admissions at Tufts University School of Dental Medicine. For those of you that aren't familiar with Tufts, we're in Boston, Massachusetts, specifically in the Chinatown neighborhood. This is a picture of our school. We had a vertical expansion in 2010, and that added a lovely amount of clinic space to the amount we already had. And here at Tufts, we're working on graduating competent and confident clinicians. We offer a DMD program that you can also add a Master's of Science or Master's of Public Health to, our Dental International Student Program, and also 18 postgraduate specialties. Our first year class is one of the most diverse that we've had, and we have students from over 31 states and 4 different countries. We've begun to send out interview invitations. Our interview days take place between October and February. And when we send out our invitations, it's an email that's sent through AdSAS, and we have applicants that are selected for interview begin calling the next day to schedule a date on one of the ones that has been offered. And we encourage people to apply, to call as early as possible in the day to hopefully get their particular chosen date. On the interview day, you'll meet 15 to 16 other applicants that are applying, and you'll all go through presentations from the Office of Admissions, financial aid, which is an important piece in the dental education process, and also career services presentation from our Office of Student Affairs. So you can kind of expect how Tufts could help you out after you graduate. There's a tour of our school led by students. We try to give you a fair amount of interaction with our students throughout the day so you can hear directly from people that are living and breathing the program what Tufts has to offer, why they chose Tufts. You also get to meet with Dr. Kasberg, our Associate Dean of Admissions and Student Affairs, and he really enjoys to get to know the applicants individually on the interview day. We have lunch with students, and sometimes during the lunch hour, we will pull people out for interviews, and interviews usually last about 30 to 40 minutes. Our interviews here at Tufts are semi-closed and conversation style. Your interviewer would be a faculty and/or one of our trained fourth-year teaching assistants. We like to have both a faculty member and a TA in the interview itself because we like to get both views on the applicant because the interview does play a very important role in the weight of decisions that are made by the admissions committee. But also we want to give the applicant a chance to meet with faculty one-on-one with students and ask them why they entered into the dental profession, what Tufts has taught them, and offered them for their careers. So some of the things that your interviewers are looking for if you come to Tufts to interview is really more about yourself and about why you're going into the profession, which is pretty standard no matter what school you may be interviewing at. But specifically at Tufts, we're looking to delve into deeper your community service and how you work with others. There's a lot of collaborative learning that goes on here at the school. We want to make sure that we're accepting people that will fit into the culture here and add to it certainly, but work collaboratively with others. We also will ask questions about, obviously, your shadowing experience. We want to know, what was that like for you? What do you know about the profession? What do you know about the business side, the instruments? What were your patient interactions like, positive and negative? And that will tell us a little bit more about your sincerity going into the dentistry profession. And also, what do you know about Tufts? Not specifically about Boston, because we're one of 3 dental schools, but what about Tufts interests you? Why did you submit that application? And there were a couple of questions from the earlier webinars that applicants had submitted, so we're going to try to address some of those. What should you bring to a Tufts interview? Well, in addition to yourself in professional dress, you don't need to bring a CV or any other written documentation unless you need to add something new to your application. We would like you to bring a pen because we hope that you'll be taking notes about Tufts on the day, because we'll be showing you new things you can't find on the website. But also, if you happen to have mentioned that you're an artist, you've got paintings, you knit, you're a sculptor, that maybe you take some pictures of your work and share them with your interviewers on the interview day. That can really help add to the application. And if our applicants oftentimes are nervous because there's a lot riding on this interview. If you happen to find yourself extra nervous that day and are stumbling a little bit, we hope that applicants are able to bring things together by the end of the interview. Ideally, we're just looking to get to know you better, but sometimes it's helpful to ask an interviewer if you could answer the question in just a few moments. You can have a little bit more time to think of it while the conversation rolls on. And also, the application only tells us so much about you as an applicant. What is it about you that makes you special is really more going to be brought out in the conversation. So oftentimes we've had someone mention something that they went on a global service mission trip. And what was it about the trip, about the people, the community, what did you take from that trip? Those are some of the questions that our interviewers might be asking. But if you have any further questions for our office or want to follow up on your application, here's our contact information. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and we occasionally release information about when we're sending out the next batch of interviews and things like that. But I hope you get a lot from this webinar, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter is from the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio School of Dentistry.
Well, welcome everybody. I'm Adriana Segura. I'm the Associate Dean for Student Affairs, and thank you for taking time today. A little bit about San Antonio, where our interview and deadlines are a little bit different than some of the other schools. We opened our application May 1st, and we close it October 1st. So we do interviews from August through January on Mondays, because we also have 2 other schools in Texas, and they interview on Tuesdays and Fridays. We interview 18 students every Monday. We also have, you'll have an interview 25 minutes with a faculty member and 25 minutes with a 3rd or 4th year dental student. In San Antonio, your interviewers will not have your grades, your DAT, or your actual application. The only thing that they have access to are your essays. And we feel like if you have an interview at San Antonio, you're already competitive enough, and we want to spend time getting to know you. So that's a good time. That's why the essays are important, because that's what the faculty and students will start basing their interview on. We also have a few recommendations for our students when they come interview. As Dr. Anzavino said from Tufts, have a list of questions you come in. If you want to come in with a binder and the questions in case you want to go through them, that's fine. Also, try to always expand it and answer. Don't answer a yes or no. Sometimes faculty or student are just wanting to get to know you. I also give advice. There's never a wrong or right answer. As everybody's mentioned, this is just supposed to mean a time for you to get to know us, to see if you're going to feel comfortable in San Antonio for 4 years. Also, at San Antonio, it's hard for us or most schools to accept updates through AdSAS or email. So we give applicants an opportunity the day that you interview. You can tell the faculty or student something you'd like to highlight. So for example, since you're part of the webinar today, this is probably not part of your application. You could tell one of our interviewers that you have been adding things to your application. You attended the ADIA webinar to help you with the interview, and that's something our faculty would like to know. As our students do interview and they do give us feedback, those are separate interviews. At the list of questions is, don't forget, even though they're students, I recommend applicants not to get too relaxed because they're students. Just still act as professional as you would with your faculty and your students. If you don't know an answer to a question, be very honest and tell the interviewer, oh, that was a great question. I think that's something I would look up. Can you guide me to where to find that out? I'm not really aware of that. And that's okay, because most of us don't know all the answers, and it's good to be honest. And as the other 2 speakers mentioned, it's okay to be nervous. I was nervous when I interviewed for my position as an OWL, so that's normal. You can take a few moments to think about it, take a bottle of water and take a sip while you think about your answer. Also, in any interview, just as for dentistry, this is going to be your job interview. So look up what's going on in the profession. What are key issues that are facing dentistry? You might have shadowed 3 or different dentists. What are they facing? What is the career? You can look up at adia.org and look up several messages on what's happening in your career. And those are good things you could even ask the interviewer if you're concerned about the future of dentistry. So that's all I have, and I hope you consider applying to Texas. It's always sunny and warm.
Thank you. Our next presenter, unfortunately, is not able to be with us from Dalhousie University. So we're going to go to the presenter from the Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry of USC.
I think I was muted there. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you all for attending. Again, my name is Saul Rios. I'm from the University of Southern California Office of Admissions and Student Affairs. I'm the DDS coordinator and counselor, as well as for our Dental Explorers program, and the pre-dental advisor for the university. I'm definitely glad to hear that there are a lot of you here at the webinar today, taking the opportunity to find out more about different interview techniques and things that you can use to help you improve in the process. So this is the Herman Ostrow School of Dentistry of USC at the Norris Dental Science Clinic. And I wanted to go over, a couple things on how you can prepare for the interview day in respect to USC, but then also things that you could take away with you. So first and foremost, you always want to be yourself. As a pre-dental student, you have been preparing for this for many years. Some students get nervous and, they feel that they have to be perfect. No one is perfect. Everything that you have been doing up until this point is essentially preparing you for that day. Science-based courses, community outreach, and so forth, excursion trips, different events just like this one that you're doing now that is preparing you for the interview day. Always rest the night before. Unfortunately, I've encountered many candidates falling asleep during the interview. Do not let this happen to you. You may think that it is obvious and it is something maybe that everybody should know, but it does happen. So just make sure to get a good night's rest just so you're focused and refreshed the next day. Always plan your travel accommodations to ensure you're always on time for the interviews. You don't want to be that person, as we're in the middle of our introduction section of the interview, that you're running in about half an hour late. Keep that in mind. How should I dress and what should I bring to the interview? Be professional and come prepared. Remember to always have a pen, something to write with. Many people just show up to the interviews, no pen, no paper, no folders, anything to take notes. Just as some other schools have already said, is take the time to interview the school. Maybe make a list while you're there of the pros and cons of why you would like to choose USC or one of the other dental schools. Always bring secondary documents with you. USC does not require a post-secondary application unless you have been invited to an interview. Once you have done that, you'll be given a link, you print out the documents, you fill them out in its entirety, and you bring that with you. Please do not ask us or anyone to print out your documents the day of your interview. You should always be prepared and ready to go. Turn off your cell phone, please. Again, this is one thing that many have thought is maybe a given, but you do have individuals who forget. Maybe it's because they're nervous or whatnot, that forget to turn off their cell phone, or they're actually using it in the middle of the interviews. What is that saying about your interest in the dental school that you're interviewing at? Always give 100% attention, even if you feel that it is irrelevant to the interview. For example, maybe it's during the lunch hour, maybe you're on break and you're anxiously checking your phone. You should give yourself 100% during that day. Another thing is engaging with your cohorts. It's important to show your socialization with your cohorts during the interview. It is dental school. It is, a profession where colleagues interact on a regular basis, go to conventions, kind of get tips from each other. So you definitely want to be open-minded, well-rounded, and speak to everybody who's there. At USC, we conduct group interviews. It's part of the selection process. I'm sorry there. Okay. This gives us an understanding of how prospective students will interact with one another. Our curriculum is problem-based learning and will involve some group work. We'd like to take this time to observe how potential student, a candidate, may interact with the cohort during the interview process. Again, this is also part of you assessing the institution and seeing if that institution is conducive to your learning environment. One thing that we've learned is not everybody does well on problem-based learning. PBL is not for everyone. So you definitely want to take that opportunity to to observe everything going on with the curriculum, to the class size, the simulation lab, different clinical opportunities, and see if that institution is for you. We are always watching is something that we always want to stress. Some candidates think, this is one part of do's and don'ts, that unless you're officially sitting there in the interview process, that's essentially going to be the only thing that matters. From the moment a candidate sets foot on the campus, they're being interviewed. You should always be respectful to others, be active during the interview process. You definitely don't want to be outside of the campus and, interact with someone who, might say something negative about you. The interview format, when you arrive, we do check-in. We'll take you up to an introduction session. Then we'll move over to our PBL session. You'll be split up into groups. Depending on the count of interviews for the day, we may have a group of 20, a group of 30. You'll be there for a couple hours with our faculty conducting a session. When you get released from there, we'll take you over to have lunch with our students. We have student ambassadors at USC. And when you conclude that, you have financial aid overview, Q&A, and then a tour of the dental school. While you're there, take advantage. We have our beautiful USC Village. Of course, we're right there in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, and we have housing, lots of retail space, and so forth. We interview from October to April, approximately 650 individuals. We want you to come and meet with our faculty, staff, and students, visit the dental clinic, obtain information about our curriculum. How do we perceive interviews? It's definitely an important part of the process, and I'll just start to wrap it up so I don't take too much of your time. But it's been said before, we can only know so much from your application. We would like to use the interview time to learn more about each candidate. Committee members have already read your application. Do not use your interview time to reiterate what is already on your application. You definitely want to use this opportunity to showcase yourself. Show the institution how you would be a valuable asset to the incoming class. Stumbling over questions, it happens all the time. So try not to let that get you down if it does happen. And just be respectful towards everyone and be professional at all times. Again, I thank you so much for your time. Our contact information is here. You can email our general USC email address, that's uscstadm@usc.edu. Call our office, check our website for some of our outreach events, and definitely, call and express, any of your concerns if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Our next presenter is from the Dental College of Georgia at Augusta University.
Okay, can you see my presentation?
Not yet.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Stephanie Perry. I'm the Director of Student Admissions and Diversity at the Dental College of Georgia at Augusta University. And just to give you a little information about the admissions committee and how you even are granted an interview. We have an admissions committee of 37 members, and that's divided into a subcommittee A and then a subcommittee B. And who are those people made up of? It's made of researchers and directors like myself. It's made of alumni who are practicing area dentists. It's also made up predominantly of the clinical and or biology faculty members, and then there's also 9 dental students that serve on the committee. We're going to talk a little bit more about what their roles are. So this is a subcommittee who reads everything that you have submitted, and then they make the determination if you're going to be granted an interview or not. So what I see for this current cycle that we're in, we have a little less, around 1,200 applications that are even being worked on. They have been submitted, they are complete, or some of them have already been granted and have been conducted in interviews. Even of all of those applications, because we're a state school, we don't, up to 10% of our class will be out-of-state students. I know that rules out a lot of people, but even with Georgia residents or not, only 240 to 250 interviews are conducted totally. And the breakdown of that, we usually interview about 50 people that are outside of the state of Georgia, and then the rest of those are designated for Georgia residents. We interview mostly on Mondays and or Fridays. So sometimes we have to back to back. That's a little hectic when we're on Friday, then double back around on Monday. But we usually interview anywhere from 12 to 15 candidates each time. We are going to conduct a total of 17 interview dates that have been designated. We started our first set of interviews on August the 21st, and we would do that continuously 17 times, and our last set of interviews are designated to be December the 4th. So 5 of our interview dates have been completed. So as far as the subcommittee A, what are they looking for to make that determination? Of course, they read your entire files. If they are previous applicants, and we look at things that they've done previously and the things that they've done to improve. So they look at the courses that you've taken, how well you do as far as numbers with GPAs and upward trends and master's degrees and DATs and where you are with the averages, and you can see ours here on the presentation. How many times you've taken it, how much you've improved or not improved. They read all your committee letters, whether you chose to go with the 4 individual letters or you do a committee letter and then a letter from a dentist. And of course, we look at your ADSAS and any supplemental information that you've added and have submitted. In addition to that, we look at some of the non-cognitive factors, because we know everybody says, oh my gosh, if they just look at my numbers, they may not think I'm impressive. But we take everything into consideration. We look at how involved you are on campus, outside of campus, the empathy and things that you've done, how much dental exposure you have. I understand that we have a lot more requirements in that area than most dental schools. So especially for out-of-state people, where 50 or 100 hours may be the norm. 300 hours is about the average of dental shadowing or dental experience for the people that apply to DCG. We look at those that have done researchers, that are TAs, or that do master's degrees, or those that are non-traditional, and just all that you have. So that's the way we determine, can they be well-rounded despite of GPAs that may not be 4.0s or 2 above the average. And let's talk a little about the role of our dental students. So our dental students, we have 9. We have 2 sophomores, 3 sophomores, 3 juniors, and 3 seniors that serve on the admissions committee. They all have 1 vote, so consensually they have to work together. But they play a very intricate part in the beginning. So they are part of the group that reviews, so they know where they were not so long ago as an applicant. And so they're probably more forgiving than some of the faculty who are far removed from that. And if you are granted an interview, then let's say you're invited for a Monday interview, then you're invited to come, highly recommend to come Sunday evening. And it's during that time that you spend 90 minutes with the 9 students that are on the admissions committee. Their role at that time is to make you see it's just normal people. You'll see your cohort of students that will be there as well. Most of the time, all of them are there. There are opportunities for you to ask any questions that you may not feel comfortable asking tomorrow when it's all dressed up and professional. And then they are also trying to see how you fit in with already the student body, the friendly environment that we already have here. You get the opportunity to interact with them again at lunch the next day during the interview, and they also sit in on the meetings that we have when we're ready to discuss the applicants that have been interviewed. And again, they put in their opinions, and for us, if 8 out of 9 of them thinks there's something about you that you're not a good fit, then we take that very seriously. And again, as they say, they have like an overall vote. To the right are just some highlights about the school for those of you that don't know a lot about the Dental College of Georgia. But the interview day is kind of outside of the night before. It's almost an entire day. So you come in your professional interview attire. You will report in a little before 8, because I'm sure parking like any campus is probably pretty crazy. You'll learn things about and spend time with our co-chair of the admissions committee and learn about the dental school, the DMD, and other programs that we may have. You got to learn some about the student body and the things that they desire, and there's 13 different student organizations that they are a part of. You get a presentation from an officer in the Office of Financial Aid, and then you learn a little bit about the backgrounds of the professionals and directors who will be conducting interviews on that day. Once you hold on to that information, because it's always interesting when you come in and you ask, hey, I understand you do this, Dr. Such and Such. So that's always know that you're engaging with what the information that was provided for you earlier. Then you get a speedy tour of the school, predominantly just to point out where you should be going, in going to to your interviews. And then there's conducted 2 one-on-one 30-minute interviews. So it's just you and an instructor, or you and a researcher, or you and a director. That person who's interviewed you do not know your DATs, or they do not know your GPAs. They do have access to all the narratives, including the personal statements that you provided. And the things we're trying to gauge is to learn more about you, and also see how we would look at you and your leadership skills and things you've been involved in, and how motivated you are as far as perseverance and getting out there and learning more about the profession or about the school. We also are very interested in any challenges and obstacles that you may have. You know, some people work well under pressure, and sometimes you persevere through some harder, tougher times. We would like to know that as well. And then what's very important to us is the communication skills. So we've had people that are very smart and attractive on paper, and then the communication skills can be lacking. And for us, that's very important because we want to know how you're going to interact with our patients. So there have been students who look well on paper, but then they get here, and then that's where they kind of mess up during the interview. Here's a few little do's and don'ts. Just do some research on the dental school. And be professional, yet be comfortable. So it's a little walking. If you spend some time in the clinic later, so you want you to have, comfortable shoes. And I heard earlier, just be yourself and have good communication skills. I know for me, a pet peeve is poor eye contact, a weak handshake, and just stay on task. We know that you can get nervous, and sometimes people just go with a script, and those not even the questions that we need to get information about. So really listen to what the interviewer is asking, and be ready to validate the information that is on your application. Oftentimes we're talking to people and we're trying to validate things we've seen, and they're looking like a deer caught in headlights as if that wasn't their application. So, read the things that you've written and make sure you can support those. Some of the things is to look at people who come off a little cocky. Those are the extra intense. Dental school is tough and challenging enough, and you to bring an extra sense of intensity there. And don't be too over the top. I know it's tough to say don't be nervous, because we know that as you're sitting there across from your interviewer, that they're, this could be a make or break you, this 30 minutes. So, that's why mock interviews are very important. And be convincing that you know what you're talking about. Be on time, and don't be just over the top. And sometimes we can tell people are going to be okay later, but this is not their year because of maturity in there or immaturity in that sense. And this, dental school is a very serious business, so we want to make sure just, in years that this person or this candidate is ready. We do something a little unique also in between having lunch and the interviews. We have each candidate do a writing sample, write 1 page, and you can't practice for this. We want to know how you think on your feet. We just give everybody the same question, so there's no way you can study for it. Then you conduct lunch, and that gives you the opportunity to spend more time with the students again. Then the associate deans and the dean will come in and speak to you about research, about the curriculum, and then you're taken down into the junior or the senior clinic where you can be there up until 3:30. Some people stay here till 5 just to observe the students as they're treating their patients. And then once you're gone, we usually have 3 interview dates, and then we have a huge 3 or 4 or 5 hour meeting and discuss each of those candidates that were interviewed. We make some provisional decisions about them. We understand, like all dental schools are making offers on December 1, but just note that if you're one of those that don't get contacted on December 1, doesn't mean you're not accepted. A lot of dental schools are still conducting interviews, and they'll just contact you at a later date. We make decisions pretty early to where we have notified everyone before we leave for the Christmas holidays, whether they have been not accepted, whether they've been waitlisted on the in-state or out-of-state, or where they have been accepted a little bit later. Here's my contact information, and so if you have any questions, you can go to our website at osaas@augusta.edu or call our office. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next presenter is from the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Dentistry.
Thank you, Emily. Can you see my screen and
Yes,
hear
I
me?
can.
Okay, perfect. So thank you all for joining us today for the ADIA ADSAS Interview Tips webinar. My name is Braulio Espinosa, Director of Admissions at the University of Illinois at Chicago. And I'll tell you a little bit more about the interview process at UIC. Our application deadline is November 15th. We interview from September to February. UIC has a class of 70 entering students, and preference is given to Illinois residents. We do accept out-of-state applications and we do accept out-of-state students, but preference is given to Illinois residents. Our faculty conduct a closed file interview. So they don't have access to any of your information. And so the interview is an opportunity for you to tell them about yourself. A student is interviewed by 2 faculty admissions committee members. It's a conversation style interview. Each interview is 20 minutes long. The interview day also includes a student services session, a tour of our dental school, and a dental student panel. So you may be asking yourself, so why is the interview so important? So why interview? What UIC is looking for during the interview process is a variety of things: your communication skills, your personality, your interactions with others. The faculty want to assess your passion and knowledge of the dental field, obviously knowledge of our College of Dentistry. And also, we want to learn more about you, learn about your leadership, extracurricular activities, and faculty and staff want to interact with you and learn more about you, something that we cannot do without an interview. And that's why the interview is such a crucial part of the application process. And so continuing on, what you should look for during the interview process. You want to know what does the environment feel like? Is there diversity of students, faculty, and staff? Is this a good fit for me? Ask questions. That goes along with being prepared and doing your research. So ask questions when you interview with faculty, when you're interacting with staff, and also with students during the dental student panel. We also suggest that you walk around campus. We have a large campus here at UIC. We have the undergraduate campus and the professional school campus, so we highly recommend that. Now, how to prepare for the interview. A lot of schools have already mentioned this. It's crucial. Research the school's interview process. Educate yourself on the kind of interview process. Do your homework and practice, practice, practice. A mock interview is extremely important. A mock interview in your suit, possibly with a pre-health advisor or in front of a mirror, or record yourself. I've heard of different students doing different things. Do what you think may work best for you. And I guess to go along with some of the additional information that students wanted to hear from the interview webinar, what can help or hurt during the interview process, the interview day? So we'll start out obviously with the positive and what can help a candidate during an interview. Other schools have mentioned this before. Be yourself. It's important that you practice for the interview, but you don't want to memorize your answers. Faculty do provide us feedback, and they do say that they obtain better answers when they go off script with a student, and not necessarily ask the questions that the student thought they were gonna be asked, and that really gives the faculty the opportunity to get real answers and to get to see the real you. Be honest about your weaknesses. This shows your interviewers that you have great self-assessment skills and that you know exactly what you can improve to be a better student, and we appreciate that. No one is perfect, and we all have strengths and weaknesses, and so it's important to be honest about your weaknesses. Be reflective. You've practiced for the interview, and so you want, and I know the day of the interview you're very nervous. That is normal. interviewers really want to hear your specific examples and your reflections of your experiences. Don't just provide us with a list of activities. We want you to reflect on what you have learned from all those experiences you have acquired in your undergraduate or even master's degree program. And so this is especially important for UIC since we have a closed file interview and the faculty typically have not received any information and have not seen anything about your application. Be confident and positive. Faculty interview many students per year. Our admissions committee interviews approximately 400 students per year, and they will remember you if you are confident and positive and happy to be at the college. Also, be prepared with questions. You have done your research on the school, you've gathered notes, and so at the end, typically at the end of the interview session, the faculty will ask you, do you have any questions for us? And believe it or not, there are many times when students don't have questions, have not prepared adequately, and are not able to engage with the faculty. So this is a time to ask insightful questions about the program. You want to ask questions that are not already answered on our website. Okay, and so what can hurt a candidate during an interview? It's been mentioned many times already, and I think we keep mentioning it because we see it a lot, not knowing about the school. We're dealing with millennials. We live in a digital era, and there are no excuses for not doing your research on a school. Utilize the school's social media, YouTube. UIC has a YouTube channel. We have a Facebook. We have our website. So utilize those resources to learn as much as possible about the school's mission, their curriculum. If a student does not know anything about our school, it really does show that they did not put any effort into preparing for the interview, and it shows that they are not interested in our school. And the other thing that can possibly hurt your interview is not answering the questions. We do understand that you are nervous. We do understand that this is a very important day, and so taking that into consideration, my advice would be to stay focused and answer the questions that you're being asked. Sometimes students evade questions because perhaps they feel like those are areas of weakness within their application. Once I've already mentioned that really reflecting on your weaknesses and understanding what your weaknesses are and knowing how you're going to improve on them is a positive. So answer all the questions that the faculty ask you. And for us, we live in the city of Chicago. Our interviews start very early in the morning, before 8 a.m. And there is a lot of traffic, just like any other large city. And, you don't want to be late to your interview. This happens a lot too during the cycle. You should take into consideration that admissions staff have put a lot of effort into your interview day, scheduling, making sure that it's a smooth day, that it's a day that you can enjoy and obviously learn a lot at. And so being late to the interview does show a lack of preparation and a lack of respect for others' time. And so with that, that is my advice from the UIC College of Dentistry on interviewing. Thank you. On the screen here, you see our website listed and also our link to schedule a tour. We have monthly tours, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining the webinar today, and special thanks to the representatives from the participating dental schools for sharing their collective wisdom. Applicants, if you heard from a school today that interests you, don't forget that you can still add additional dental school designations to your application after your initial designations. Log into the IDEA ADSAS application to apply. This concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending.